Hello, dear chess friends. My name is Andrey Ostrovskiy. I'm an international master from Ukraine, and you're welcome to the first part of the series of lessons dedicated to diagonals. In this one, we will talk about the importance of controlling diagonals. And you can see the first position, the first example. So this position looks a bit messy at first glance, a bit complicated because of different possibilities, mainly technical ones, but there is one very important feature that makes white's position completely winning. Let's have a look on the bishop b2. So as you can see, it occupies very good position, controlling very important diagonal a1, h8. And what is important about this control is that, well, first of all, this diagonal is quite exposed because there are no pawns on this diagonal. This situation is usually very bad for the side that tries to protect diagonal, so only pieces cover this diagonal. And as you can see, there are no other pieces, very important ones, to help to cover this diagonal properly. I'm talking mainly about dark squared bishop. So as you can see, bishop b2 has no counterpart in this situation, and it is a sign of different tactical motives. At the moment, we can see the knight on c3 that interferes the bishop b2 with the complete control of the diagonal. So our main idea should be to clear diagonal, so to get rid of own and opponent's pieces to make the bishop working well. And white's first move is knight takes e4. Very interesting combination. As you can see now, bishop b2 attacks the knight on f6. The same is about the knight e4, so knight e4 also attacks the knight, so black has no anything better except for knight c takes e4. So after knight c takes e4, white continues the same plan, just trying to get rid of the pieces along the diagonal. So rook takes e4 now, eliminating the defender of the knight f6. Knight f6 is hanging, and black has nothing better than just taking the rook on e4. Otherwise, there will be very nasty pin along the diagonal. And just for example, if one of rooks goes somewhere to protect the knight, well, the rook can easily get to, let's say, f4, increasing the pressure against the knight f6. And sooner or later, white will manage just to win this piece, no questions. So knight takes e4. And at first glance, looks like white achieved nothing, because if now bishop takes g7, the rook takes g7, and black has a material advantage, an extra minor piece. In fact, white's idea was not to take on g7, but to have this situation. So, as you can see, white in fact achieved more than just the possibility to regain the material. So bishop b2 is now extremely active, pinning the rook g7 and simply paralyzing black's pieces. So since the rook g7 is pinned, white has some additional possibilities. So all the squares that this rook controls are now possible for white to occupy in some cases. So for example, if white adds another attacking piece to attack h7, it will be just possible to take it with the queen using the pin. So that gives white a chance for another interesting combination. So rook takes e4 first, eliminating the defender of the g5 square, which is extremely important because knight can occupy it. And after queen takes e4, knight goes to g5, ignoring the fact that queen on h4 is hanging. Because if queen takes queen, the rook is pinned, right? So white has a chance to play knight to f7. That's the point. And since rook f7 is not possible, it is a checkmate, a smothered one. Very nice one. The same is about, for example, queen h1 check. So in this case, we just take the queen first, bishop takes the queen, and knight goes to f7 with a checkmate. And finally, if after knight g5, queen goes to g6, simply protecting f7 square, queen takes on h7 first, deflecting the queen, and after queen takes queen, knight goes to f7 with the checkmate. So everything was possible only because of that great bishop on b2, controlling very important long diagonal a1, h8. So let's get to another example. This position appeared in a game between Taurus and Elohim, and we can see that black has a serious advantage here. So just have a look on this crazy knight on e4, pay attention to activity of black's pieces, and also this great control over the center. So this pawns c5, d5, c4 create a great and strong pawn fist, controlling almost all important squares in the center. But still, it is quite hard to believe that black can win a position in a few moves. But let's have a look on the same feature like in the previous example that makes sense here. So the bishop on b7, as we can see, occupies diagonal exclusively. This bishop has no counterpart. White has no light squared bishop because, well, as we can see, black has a pair of bishops in this position. So usually when one of the sides has a pair of bishops, this means one of the bishops has no counterpart. In this case, it is a light squared bishop. This means when this diagonal becomes open, this bishop will be just a crazy power. So everything that black has to do is to try to open up this diagonal to make the bishop active, and this control should decide. And black, just according to this plan, starts clearing the diagonal, so black starts getting rid of own and opponent's pieces to open up this diagonal completely. As we saw in the previous example, it may decide. Black plays d4, a very good move and very natural one, just to break through in the center. White's best defense was probably just to go away, to ignore this move and to put the bishop somewhere on g1 probably. But as you can see, this looks simply awful. So pay attention, black already has a great passed pawn on d4, so it's possible to improve the situation by putting this pawn on d3 if necessary. But what is really important in this position is the bishop b7, which is now active. It exerts great pressure along this important a8 h1 diagonal. And, well, what black has to do here is to get rid of the knight f3 somehow to force this knight moving, and probably something like g5 should decide. So after g5, we can see there is already a threat of g4 with the fork. This forces white's pieces moving somehow. The knight h3 can't move because in that case, let's say knight f2, right? Knight goes to g3 with the checkmate, which means that probably to avoid this situation, the knight from f3 should go somewhere. But in this case, again, we can simply play g4 with the knight g3 next move, or just winning the knight on h3, so position is completely lost for white. But in a game after d4, white did not even imagine black's plan, so white simply took on d4, probably thinking of winning some material for nothing. But, of course, after cd4, bishop takes d4, bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, rook takes d4, and knight takes d4, that was pretty much forced. Black had something incredible up his sleeve. And as you can see now, the bishop controls the diagonal, it exerts some pressure, but it is still not enough. We can see g2 pawn prevents this bishop from becoming really active. So black has to eliminate this last barrier on the way of the bishop, and it is possible to do with a nice combination. Queen takes h3, pawn takes, and knight goes to f2, double check. The only defense is king to g1, after which knight goes to h3 with the checkmate. So beautiful combination, beautiful sequence of moves, and everything is based again on controlling diagonal, controlling very important a8, h1 diagonal exclusively with the bishop. Let's get to another example. This position arose in a game between Lasker and Ostrovskiy, and the difference compared to previous examples is that all the bishops are still on the board. However, we can see that black already managed to occupy long diagonal a8, h1 with both the bishop and the queen. So that is a great tandem, usually a very efficient method of operating along diagonals. So to have the queen and the bishop coordinated to create threat along this diagonal. So Here we can see that on the way of those bishop and the queen are the knight f3 and the pawn on g2. So black has to deal with those pieces, to exert some pressure on them, to try to force them moving somewhere or just to exchange them in order to make diagonal clear. So the first move is quite logical. Black just starts with the knight to g5, opening up this diagonal for the queen and the bishop, at the same time creating concrete threat, just to capture the knight f3 two times, winning the pawn, for example. And at least it is just saying pressure against the knight. So sooner or later, this knight will be forced moving. That's the point. So white took on b5 at this moment. And here, it is very important not to take on f3. Because if black takes too early, just like that, knight takes f3, queen takes f3. And black has nothing better than to take the queen, and after g takes f3, okay, black is able to regain the pawn. I mean, just to take on b5 first, and then to take on f3. But at the same time, as you can see, black lost very important piece that could be decisive in the attack along this diagonal, I mean the queen. Without the queen, black has no real chances to create serious threats along this diagonal, so this diagonal no longer means a lot. That's the point. So after a b5, black correctly took on b5 with the pawn. And now this threat of knight f3, for example, exists. At the same time, black has some threats along the a file. So for instance, rook a2 could be a nasty threat in addition to this attack against the knight. So white decided to simplify a position and took on b5. And that was, of course, a decisive mistake because white underestimated black's serious threats along diagonal a8, h1. So the best defense was to go away with the knight to e1, quite a passive move, but this helps white to protect g2 pawn at least, and to prevent knight takes f3, which was black's main idea. And here black can use diagonal with the help of knight h3 move. It is check. As you can see, pawn can't take the knight. In this case, queen h1 will be just a checkmate. So pawn is pinned. And after knight h3, white is forced to play king to h1. And black simply plays knight to f4, attacking several important squares and pieces. So knight attacks the queen, the bishop, and the pawn on g2, which probably forces white to play something like queen to g4, after which black has simply an overwhelming position because black can take on d3 here. Now black has pair of bishops, which means black's b7 bishop has no counterpart, and black has a complete control over light squares, and now this control over diagonal a8, h1 will be exclusive. So white has no chance to maneuver the bishop to this diagonal and to fight for this diagonal, to close this diagonal, because bishop has gone. Here black has a serious advantage, no questions. But still it was the best defense. In the game, white took on b5, and now black simply captured on f3. The point here is that if compared to previous line that we discussed, queen takes f3 is not possible. So if queen takes, the bishop on b5 is hanging, so black simply captures on b5, having decisive material advantage. Which means after knight f3, the only move for white is g takes f3, which completely damages the pawn structure on the king side and makes diagonal a8, h1 completely weak. So now there is no possibility for white to protect it properly. And black wins in two moves. So first, queen g5 check, forcing the king to h1. Now the king occupies this diagonal, so bishop b7 is extremely active, exerting pressure on f3 mainly. Black's task is very simple now, just to attack f3 one more time. Queen goes to g4, very nice move, still controlling the g file, so limiting the activity of the king, and exerting pressure on f3. This pawn is pinned, so it is not possible to take the queen because bishop attacks the king, which means white simply has no suitable defense to make bishop takes f3 threat. So the only possibility to cover that diagonal is to play probably d5, but this leads to nowhere because bishop takes d5, and now White simply has no defense against bishop takes f3 for sure. Black wins. This concludes the first lesson in the series dedicated to diagonals, in which we understood the importance of controlling diagonals in chess. Thanks for your attention. See you next lessons.